Well, let's return now to the capital, Riyadh, where US President Obama is attending the Six-Nation Gulf Cooperation Council, and he's taking questions and answers.
A lot of the string of woe is overblown. The fact of the matter is that friendship and cooperation that exists between the United States and the Gulf countries has been consistent for decades. During the course of our administration, the GCC countries have extensively cooperated with us on counterterrorism, on curbing the financing of terrorist activities. They are part of the counter-ISIL coalition that has made progress both in Syria and in Iraq. If you think about last year when we had the Camp David meeting, you were already seeing the onset of conflict in Libya, as well as in Yemen, and as we come to this meeting in part because of the collective efforts of members of the GCC. We have a new government in Libya that is very nascent, but has the opportunity finally to organize itself in a way that we haven't seen in a couple of years. That would not have happened had it not been for the effective diplomatic pressure that was applied by all the GCC countries as well as the United States and the United Nations. In Yemen, we now have a cessation of hostilities that allows us to build a peace process that can relieve the suffering of the people inside of Yemen. That would not have happened had it not been for the GCC U.S. cooperation. We would not have gotten an Iran deal to get their nuclear weapons out had not the GCC been supportive of it. So what is true between the United States and the GCC, as is true with all of our allies and friends, is that at any point in time there are going to be differences in tactics. And part of the goal here, as well as the meeting in Camp David, is to make sure that not only do we share a broad common vision of how prosperity and stability peace are achieved in this region and how we counter extremist activity, but that we have knowledge of what each party is doing on an ongoing basis. I think it is no doubt true that when we entered into the negotiations with Iran around the nuclear deal, there was concern that in the interest of getting the deal done, we would somehow look the other way with respect to their other destabilizing activities. And in fact, what we are able to report is not only have we seen Iran do what it is supposed to do under the deal, and the threat of an Iranian nuclear weapon is greatly reduced, but what we've also seen, what the GCC has seen, is our continued cooperation in, for example, interdicting Iranian efforts to arm the Houthi militias inside of Yemen. That, I think, has created some confidence. But one of the things at a time when the region is so fraught with so many different problems and challenges is the need for more consistent, institutionalized communication at every level of government. And that's part of what we've been able to achieve through these two summits, and my hope is that it will continue into the next administration. I think it has been highly useful because the possibilities of misunderstanding increase when there's so much activity taking place. I'll give you one last example. Inside of Iraq, there are understandable concerns about Iranian influence in the Iraqi government at a time when the Iraqi government is also critical for us fighting ISIL. It was very important, I think, for us to describe our assessment that Prime Minister Abadi is in fact effectively fighting against ISIL and trying to reach out to Sunnis inside of Iraq, while acknowledging that there are significant problems in terms of government stability inside of Baghdad, and that's a reason for us not to withdraw, but rather to get more involved in helping to stabilize areas like Anbar, where we've now cleared out ISIL, but the towns that they were governing have been left devastated. And if we want Sunni communities to be able to rebuild themselves and to get back into the lives they were leading before ISIL took over, then we're going to have to help the Iraqi government respond. The same is true with respect to Syria. Right now, the cessation of hostilities is very fragile and may be breaking down, in part because of the Assad regime's continuing attacks on areas where they perceive they have an advantage. This is part of the reason why I called Mr. Putin on Monday, indicating to him that in the same way that we are continually urging moderate opposition inside of Syria to abide by the cessation of hostilities, he needs to be holding the regime into account. For us to be able to describe the specifics of that conversation in a setting like this, to give the opportunity for the other heads of state to ask questions about Russian intentions, I think was extremely useful.
Sure, any new commitments on the stabilization effort? I mean, you're asking for aid.
And that was President Barack Obama taking questions from the floor in Riyadh. He spoke about reinforcing and the importance of having dialogue with the Six Nations. He said that they shared a common vision for prosperity, and in a region which is fraught with so many problems, there was a need for consistency, because without it, that is when misunderstandings happen. He also touched on Syria, saying that it was very fragile, the cessation of hostilities, and that there may be breaking down. We will, of course, bring you more on that meeting as it unfolds here on TRT World. Apologies for the sound coming out of Riyadh. It was quite poor to listen to.